Hi everyone. The target of the presentation is to explain about software development life cycle, different project development models, with Jira tool. With the help of Jira tool, how can you create Scrum board and Kanban board, creating the sprint, creating backlogs, creating issues in the Jira tool. That and all we are going to cover in this presentation. Let's start the presentation. What is SDLC? The software development lifecycle is the cost-effective and time-effective process that developer teams use to design and build high-quality softwares. The goal of SDLC is to minimize project risk through forward planning so that software meets customer expectation during production and beyond. This methodology outlines a series of steps that divide the software development process into tasks you can assign, complete, and measure. Why is SDLC important? Software development can be challenging to manage due to changing requirement, technology upgrades, and cross-functionality collaboration. The software development lifecycle methodology provides a systematic management framework with specific developers at every stage of the software development process. As a result, all stakeholders agree on software development goals and requirements upfront and also have a plan to achieve those goals. On the screen, you can see the benefits of SDLC. How does SDLC work? The software development lifecycle outlines several tasks required to build a software application. The development process goes through several stages as developer add new features and fix bugs in the software. The details of the SDLC process vary for different teams. However, we outline some common SDLC phases below. See, here we can see first stage is a plan. The planning phase typically includes tasks like cost benefiting analysis, scheduling, resource estimation, and allocation. Uh, the document sets expectations and defines common goals that are in project planning. The team estimates cost, create a schedule, and has a detailed plan to achieve their goals. Design. In the design phase, software engineers analyze requirements and identify the best solution to create a software. For example, they may consider integrating pre-existing modules, make technology choices, and identify development tools. They will look at how to best integrate the new software into any existing IT infrastructure the organization may have. Implementation. Uh, it's like actual development phase. Okay. In the implementation phase, the development team codes the product. So they analyze the requirement to identify different modules, different functional the code related design, and they start implementing the requirement in the form of code. In SDLC, there are six phases. We already discussed about plan, design, and implementation. Now we'll discuss about test, deploy, and maintain. Right? Testing phase. It's the development team combines automation and manual testing to check the software for bugs. Okay, or quality analysis, including testing the software for errors and checking if it meets customer requirement or not. Because many teams immediately test the code they write. The testing phase often runs parallel to the development phase. Deployment. It's once we complete the code and testing on the code, we'll deploy the developer software in different environments. We'll deploy business applications, application servers. Okay. Once we deploy the software in that respective environment, we can see how it is running in that particular environment. Okay. Once we deploy the code in that respective application servers, we need to maintain that software, okay, whatever we have developed and whatever we have deployed and whatever we have hand over that code to the client, that software we need to maintain. These are the phases involved in SDLC. What are SDLC models? A software development lifecycle model conceptually presents SDLC in an organized fashion to help organizations implement it. Different models arrange the SDLC phases in varying chronicle order to optimize the development cycle. Like we have different models like waterfall model and iterative model. If you talk about waterfall model, the waterfall model arranges all the phases sequentially so that each new phase depends on the outcome of the previous phase. So like suppose if you want, so like just take a waterfall model, like it has different phases. Okay, suppose if you want to start the second phase, that depends on the outcome of the first phase, like that. Okay, it's like a sequential process. Okay, like we have another model, like the iterative model. The iterative process suggests the team begins software development with a small subset of requirements. I mean, like instead of starting the whole the requirement, just they take a small piece of requirement and they start working on that the piece, small piece. Okay, the development process will start by using that iterative model. Spiral model. The spiral model uh, combines the iterative model, small repeated cycles with the waterfall models, linear sequential flow to prioritize risk analysis. You can use the spiral model to ensure software gradually release and improved by building prototype at each phase. Okay, it's like the whole thing is like that depends on the prototype. Like they took the prototype, they start developing, and that they release that one, like that spiral model, spiral development model works. Okay, next one is like agile model. The agile model arranges the SDLC phases into several development cycles. Okay, the team iterates through the phase rapidly, delivering only small incremental software changes in each cycle. Like that will work on agile process. Okay, like if you take waterfall model, it has the six phases, like requirement gathering and analysis, design, implementation, testing, development, and maintenance. Right? Requirement, like this is the first phase. Like we need to get the requirement from the stakeholders or product owners. Okay, next based on the requirements we'll start designing. Once design completed, we'll start implementation. Once implementation completed, we'll start testing, deployment, finally maintenance. These are the phases involved in waterfall model. On the screen, we can see the phases in the form of a flowchart. Okay, first feasibility study, requirement analysis and specification, design, coding and unit testing, integration and the system testing, finally maintenance. These are the phases involved in waterfall model. Agile model. Agile model was primarily designed to help a project adapt quickly to change requests. So the main aim of the Agile model is to facilitate quick project completion. Like to accomplish this task, Agile is required agility. Uh, that one achieved by fitting the process to the project and removing activities that may not be essential for a specific project. Okay. Also, anything that is a waste of time and effort is avoided. The Agile model refers to a group of development process. These processes share some basic characteristics, but to have certain subtle differences among themselves. Yeah, so we'll discuss about the Agile SDLC models and methods. Okay, several models involved in Agile SDLC. Okay, the one thing is like models, the pattern, feature-driven development, Scrum. This is one of the model. Most of the project going to use this model, Scrum model. Okay, like the extreme program. This is also one of the model in Agile SDLC models, learn development and unified process. Here we can see the flow of Agile SDLC model. Like it starts with the requirement gathering, design the gathered requirement, construction. Like here it would play the major role. Like here suppose if you need any further requirement to construct the things, Again, we go back and get the requirement. We'll design the requirement. We'll start construction. Okay. Once the construction completed on the particular requirement, we will go with the testing for quality assurance. Once we finish the testing, we will deploy. We'll get the feedback. Again, we'll go back to requirement for another functionality. We'll start design. We'll construct the piece of code on the requirement. We'll test. We'll deploy. We'll get the feedback. Like that. So, like that, the Agile SDLC model would be involved. About Scrum. Scrum is a lightweight framework uh, that helps people, team, and organizations generate values through adaptive solutions for complete problems. Uh, if you talk about Scrum, Scrum requires a Scrum Master to foster an environment. Uh, See, like suppose if you start working on Scrum model, we need a product model. Sorry, we need a product owner. Product owner orders the work for a complex problem in the product backlog. Okay. Next, like the Scrum team turns a selection of the work into an increment of value during a sprint. Third one is like the Scrum team and its stakeholders inspect the results and adjust for the next sprint. This process will repeat until we finish whole the requirement. Scrum values. Use of Scrum depends on people becoming more proficient in living five values. They are commitment, focus, openness, respect, and courage. These are the Scrum values. Scrum team. The fundamental unit of Scrum is a small team of people, a Scrum team. The Scrum team consists of one Scrum Master, one product owner, and developers. Within a Scrum team, there are no sub teams or hierarchies. It is a cohesive unit of professionals focused on one object at a time, the product goal. Scrum teams are cross functional, meaning the members have all the skills necessary to create value each sprint. They are also self managing, meaning they internally decide who does what, when, and how. The Scrum team is small enough to remain nimble and large enough to complete significant work with a sprint. Typically 10 or fewer people. In general, we have found the smaller teams communicate better and are more productive. If Scrum teams become too large, they should consider recognizing into multiple cohesive Scrum teams, each focused on the same product. Therefore, they should share the Scrum product goal, product backlog, and product owner. Developers. The developers are the people in the Scrum team that are committed to creating any aspect of a usable increment each sprint. The specific skills needed by the developer are often broad and will vary with the domain of work. However, the developers are always accountable for creating a plan for the sprint backlog, installing the installing quality by adhering to a definition of done, adapting the plan each day toward the sprint goal, and holding each other accountable as professionals. In this Scrum model, developers use it to play the very important role. What I would like to say about the developers means while planning the sprint, product owner and the Scrum Master use it to get the input from the developers. Based on the inputs from the developers only, the product owners and Scrum Masters plan the sprint. So the developers, they must provide the accurate information, whether whether picking the any backlog from the backlog or product backlog, they can able to finish the respective backlog within the sprint or not. So they only able to provide accurate information to product owner and Scrum masters. Uh, Product owner, product owner, he's the he is responsible to get the requirement from the stakeholders. He is the person used to create the backlogs, the prod backlogs, or sprint backlogs. So the team, Scrum team used to get the backlogs from the product, and they start planning the sprint. So by looking that, product owner is the most important person to get the requirement from the stakeholders. The product owner is accountable for the maximizing the value of the product resulting from the work of the Scrum team. How this is done may vary widely across organizations, Scrum teams, and individuals. Finally, once a sprint completed, the end of the sprint, product owner is responsible to cross-check whether the provided backlog development or implementation is perfectly implemented or not. He is the person to judge whether it has implemented according to the requirement or not. So in each and every Scrum team, product owner is the major person to get the information and provide the information to the Scrum team and get the correct implementation. Whether it has implemented according to the requirement or not, is the person to check and to validate and certify that respective sprint implementation. Scrum Master. Scrum Master is accountable for establishing Scrum as defined in the Scrum Guide. They do this by helping everyone understand the Scrum theory and and practice the Scrum theory both with the Scrum team and the organization. The Scrum Master is accountable for the Scrum team's effectiveness. They do this by enabling the Scrum team to improve its practices within the Scrum framework. Uh, the Scrum Master coaching the team members in self-management and cross-functionality, um, helping the Scrum team focus on creating high-value increments and meet the definition of done, causing the removal of implements to the Scrum team's progress, ensuring the Scrum events take place and are positive, proactive, and kept within the time box. Um, Helping find techniques for effective product goal definition and product backlog management, facilitating stakeholder collaboration as required are needed. Scrum events. The sprint is a container for all other events. Each event in Scrum is a formal opportunity to inspect and adapt Scrum artifacts. These events are specifically designed to enable the transparency required. Failure to operate any event as prescribed results in lost opportunity to inspect and adapt. Events are used in Scrum to create regularity and to minimize the need for meeting not defined in Scrum. The sprints are the heartbeat of Scrum, where ideas are turned into value. If you talk about sprint, what are the backlogs created by product owner? These and all, the turn into value actually. So the sprint is plays the major role in the Scrum events. Okay, during the sprint, the one sprint started, the no changes are made that would enhance the sprint goal. Quality does not decrease. The product backlog is refined as needed. Scope may be clarified and renegotiated with the product owner as more is learned. Sprint planning. Sprint planning initiates the sprint by laying out the work to be performed for the sprint. This resulting plan is created by the collaborative work of the entire Scrum team. The product owner ensures that attendees are prepared to discuss the most important product backlog items uh, to achieve the product goal. The Scrum team may also invite other people to attend sprint planning to provide advice. Here we can see sprint planning addresses the topics. Okay, why is the sprint values, what can be done in the sprint, how will the chosen work get done. These are the things planned in the sprint planning meeting. That is Scrum. Like the purpose of the daily scrum is to inspect progress toward the sprint goal and adapt the sprint backlog as necessary, adjusting the upcoming planned work. Okay, the daily scrum is a uh, 15-minute event for the developers of the scrum team. To reduce complexity, it is held at the same time and place their working day of the sprint. If the product owner or scrum master are actually working on teams, the teams on different items in the sprint backlog, they participate as developers. The developers can select whatever structure and techniques they want as long as the daily scrum focus on progress toward the sprint goal and produces an actionable plan for the next day of work. This creates focus and improves self-management. A sprint review. The purpose of the sprint review is to inspect the outcome of the sprint and determine future adoptions. The Scrum team presents the result of their work to key stakeholders and progress toward the product goal is discussed. During the event, the Scrum team and stakeholders review what was accomplished in the sprint and what has changed in the environment. Based on the information, attendees collaborate on what to do next. The sprint review is the second to last event of the sprint, and is time boxed to a maximum of 4 hours for a 1 month sprint. The event is usually shorter. Sprint retrospective. The purpose of the sprint retrospective is to plan ways to increase quality and effectiveness. The Scrum team inspects how the last sprint went with regards to individuals, interactions, process, tools, and the definition of done. Inspected elements often vary in the domain of work. Assumptions that led them astray are identified and their origins explored. The Scrum team discussed what went well during the sprint, what problems it encountered, and how those problems were solved. Scrum artifacts. Scrum artifacts represent work or value. They are designed to maximize transparency of key information. Thus, everyone inspecting them as the same base for adaptation. Here we can see the sprint flow diagram. For each and every sprint, they pick the backlogs from the product backlog. Once they pick the backlogs from the product backlog, mm, they start 2 weeks or 4 weeks sprint. Okay. Once sprint started, the scrum master or product owner used to conduct a daily scrum meeting. So in that meeting, they used to ask like what you have done yesterday, what you do today, what you are going to do tomorrow. These things the scrum master or product owner used to ask sprint team. At the same time, sprint team they need any help from any other teams. They face any difficulties, they need any clarification on sprint backlog, uh, they get clarified in this daily scrum meeting. Once sprint completed, they hand over this development implementation code to the testing team. Before, the end of the sprint, there is a sprint review meeting, what the sprint team developer what they implemented, what they implement, the requirement, the product owner, the user to verify whether it has implemented properly or not. So they provide the feedback to sprint team. Based on the feedback, they correct the implementation and they hand over this sprint implementation to the testing team. Once sprint completed, there is a retrospective meeting, what went well, what went wrong, how they resolve the problems, what are the problems they face. These things they used to cross check with the sprint team. Okay, like this sprint would happen. Thanks for watching this presentation. Um, Please subscribe my channel. Thank you very much.